it than we can probably articulate as much as we would like to. Minister would have mentioned and provided the outline, some details, and that we're doing our restoration. We do know that in this state, whilst we can provide as much guidance that some persons are more in survival mode than others, and so it may be difficult to comply with some of the guidance that we have given. And so we recognize that we need bolstering in a lot of areas. Two things that pose a threat. One, as we restore, especially in the parish of St. Elizabeth, because it's so delicate, extra reinforcement is required to ensure that whatever we put in does not collapse again. Also, what we're looking for in terms of what people providing for the public health measures will do, we have to watch out for those. Minister mentioned our food and what may happen. Minister mentioned the matter of water. Our role is to protect health. Our role is to provide health services. When those teams were in those facilities looking after those patients, and I speak and focus a little bit more on Black River, they held that building as much as they could and kept all of those persons until we could manage to do what we need to do. That is the team in health. That's what we're going to do. So as compromised as the system is, we haven't forgotten what we need to do. We are going to do what we need to do. And we are going to depend on that support that is coming in to ensure that this health system delivers what it needs to deliver. That's all I have to say, Minister.
Thank you very much. Anything? Thank you very much, Dr. Dawkins. Right. So as I said earlier, there's a full team in the room, not on camera, but they're part of a much larger team that's behind these walls. The Emergency Operating Center is a 24-hour operation that keeps engaging and responding and coordinating across the country. There's also a very large team out in the country. I want to just pay tribute to the CEOs, the SMOs, the head of nursing, the auxiliary staff, the porters. I've seen many examples of heroic response. The porters taking staff members to visit their families to see if they can see what has happened to them, and because they have no other means of transport, no communication, that kind of thing. The staff at Falmouth Hospital outside with the big pots cooking because dietary was out of commission, and they literally had the stoves on the outside under the natural elements preparing meals for the patients. At SAV, the CEO being on the roof trying to, at great risk to himself, because I don't know him as a roofer, trying to repair a roof so that the elements doesn't further contaminate the equipment or the supplies. The operations person taking me to the fire station to borrow the Starlink to make a call. The JDF flying in, looking for a place to land, moving patients out in Black River, saving the lives of 4 or 5 persons.
This print prints everything to get your brand in front of your fans, like T-shirts, water bottles, and totes, so everyone.
On and on and on. I mean, we have seen a lot of it, and if there is anything positive that can come out of this, is that we are resilient people. We find ways to survive. We come together when it's necessary. And I think we're doing just that despite the challenges. But still a lot of work ahead. I just want to say to the public that from a health team perspective, we know what we need to do, and we're going to go out there and do it. It's not going to be perfect. There are going to be cases when we have to respond, when there will be complaints, there will be concerns. But we're here, we're listening, and we're going to spend as much time on the road to support those who are under pressure. And that involves our partners like PAHO and others who will come on board. So for now, we will continue this type of communication in the weeks to come. During COVID, we had a kind of COVID conversation. I don't want to call this Melissa conversation, but we will try to reach out and allow for an opportunity for comments, feedback, queries, and better coordination, because we think in crises, communication is absolutely critical. People need to know what's happening. And no matter if it's bad news or not so good news, I think it's important that people know. All right, so I'm open to questions now if there are any. Okay.
All right, so we're going to ask you just to state your full name, the media house that you're representing, and put your question to Minister.
Good morning. I am Camille Williams from Radio Jamaica / Television Jamaica. Minister and the other members of staff who are here, I visited Santa Cruz yesterday, and we tried to get to Black River, couldn't get there. But when we stopped in Santa Cruz off the main road, we went to the New River District, and we also spoke with the St. Elizabeth Infirmary. One of the issues that is present in New River, and I suppose other places, is the issue of persons who have died or dead animals. When we were trying to get into New River, animals had died and their bodies, decomposed bodies, are on the roads in water. And people have been walking and traversing in those waters. Do you have any anything to say, advice, anything, any caution? Well, not just Minister, anyone else in the room. Do you have anything to say to persons who are in places where there are reports of dead bodies, whether in buildings or on the roads or dead animals? That's one question. And two, do you have an idea now of the possible or current official death toll? Last number that we heard was 19. And I spoke with the funeral director, and he didn't want to go on record, but it seems that there are far more out there than we can get to. So one, death toll. Two, any advice regarding dead bodies?
Right. So I had mentioned the environmental health team, and the leads are in this room. You can speak to them after. But it's a very important part of the response, and that's the mode we're in now. Having secured some communication, having cleared some of the roadways, and now have the mobility to go into communities, we can now target particular areas while we work with the authorities, the other agencies, to secure other areas. So the team would be on the lookout for what you have just mentioned. So dead animals, for example, proper disposal of those carcasses. Clearly, if it's the worst of a dead body, then there is a mechanism for that. When I was in Westmoreland at the hospital, they were taking in a few bodies, and some of them were marooned in communities. So it took a little while to access them, and you wouldn't have known until someone raised the alarm that this was the case because of the nature of the accessibility and so on. Once access and notification was given, the JDF would provide the level of support that we can provide, air support, but then we also have arrangements with different entities to pick up and to drop off and so on. And I did witness at least 3 or so when I was at SAV. There were also persons who are injured. One man who broke his leg and was at home for like 3 days because he couldn't get access, and he came in while I was there. But the environmental health team, numbering 600 in an ideal scenario, would be out there, and we would want a kind of feedback on that if persons see, as you have just indicated. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment further on that, but that's my understanding of how it works, right? And we have to be vigilant, and it has to involve all of us, okay? I don't have any official numbers on deaths. I know that there was an announcement by, I think, the Minister of Information on the 19th. I would imagine it's more. But it wouldn't be wise for me to speculate because, and I say so because there are still places that we have had difficulties reaching. I know the storm entered the border of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, Communities like Darliston and those areas, Black River, of course, they were really impacted by the wind. A lot of roof damage, a lot of injuries, which we are now seeing coming in. We hope for the best, but we have to prepare, plan, and do the necessary reconnaissance to determine on that. So I'm sure the Minister of Information, once she gets an updated report from the police, will provide that information. Any other questions?
Last thing, and then I'll give, of course, some other colleagues. The field hospital that your team is looking to set up in Black River, has it already been set up? Where is it, and when would they open?
No, it's not yet set up, but we have identified a location. The team, the forward planning team are here. There's a small committee that Ian is a part of. Dr. Dawkins, right? I joined them last evening, had a discussion with them. That is planning the logistics of movement. There are discussions around air movement and or land movement. So containers, but there is also the possibility of air movement. We're getting some support from the U.S. Army and their large cargo helicopters. Some of those details will become more apparent in another few hours. So one way or the other, we're going to be moving the bulk cargo to the site, and there are 50 JDF soldiers who are on standby will be present on site tomorrow, where the cargo is expected, all other things being equal, to be dropped, well, not dropped, but placed. And from there, the team will proceed to build out, which I am told will take, 24 hours? Or
It's a significant undertaking. They will start travel tomorrow.
yes.
And then I would expect they would spend the next days.
Next few days. So we do expect that hospital will be in place sometime in this coming week. And that's good for that town and that area, because it, as Ian said, it's fully equipped, operating theater and all. And the team that are with the JDF are experts on this. And once it's up and running, essentially we'll have a hospital in Black River to support the team there, and some supporting staff to support the team. And the others will come during the course of the week into the next week. The Spanish one first this week, and some work is now being done to determine where we put that. Yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Morning, Minister. In terms of the solidarity cleanup exercise tomorrow, there are many Jamaicans, including myself, maybe feeling a little bit of survivor's guilt, wanting to be a part of something. Is it open for persons to be able to join that effort? Tomorrow is Sunday, so many people don't have to go to work. Is it too late? Or if they can join, can you indicate how?
So in our planning discussion, we had taken a decision to use health staff and their family members initially. And let me tell you why. And it's not that we think we have an authority on compassion or even volunteerism. We were a little concerned about control and coordination in the first instance, because we know a lot of people want to help. And what I don't want, and the team decided on this, having explored it, is for 500 people to end up at a hospital site, and the control around who does what, and maybe even put themselves in harm's way, because there's a lot of debris, broken glass, zinc, and cutting, trees that are falling down and that sort of thing. So we took a decision in the interest of doing something quickly to support the staff and to clean up the grounds, to use a control number, I think about 200 that we have confirmed. And then after that, we will manage further support. Now, I'm looking at Pitre, and I'm not even sure I have the details as to who is going to cook the lunch. Is it you, Pitre? We have some welfare packages. Maybe if persons have welfare packages and they want to drop off at a central point, because we intend to, this is for the staff now, because believe me, we really think the staff needs it, from the porter to the doctor, because they have lost everything. So we want to try and provide some initial welfare support And I mean, our offices are here in New Kingston. If persons have packages and they want to leave, maybe we could take those and just give it to them as a short-term thing. I know it's short notice. We are making some arrangement with Minister Charles. So it's a kind of moral support, a little welfare support, a little encouragement, and a little cleanup. It's everything in one, but trying to do it in a controlled way in the first instance. But there'll be a lot more opportunities of this kind later on.
Okay, I have another question. I know you said that there is a mental health specialist coming into the island on Monday, but just curious to know, is there any additional, are there any additional resources that have been put in place in terms of persons needing to call now? If you have, larger numbers of persons calling, do you have the resources?
So one of the things that we are planning to do, and I've already started to look at it, is to increase the capacity to support online. But we also need to expand the capacity on the ground zero, meaning those 5 parishes, because the communication function is very limited. So it's hard to communicate with the people in Westmoreland or them to communicate with us. You literally physically have to go to them, or at least have a central point where they can walk to. It was interesting. When I was in St. Elizabeth, I saw a person say they were walking from Westmoreland to come and check on their loved ones, and they were walking for hours, because they had to walk over trees and so on, and there's no communication. I felt very inadequate when I was trying to reach some of the parishes and just couldn't reach anyone. So we're going to have to put in place, and are putting in place, a communication mechanism that is more community-based communication, which is why we need teams on the ground in the communities, because of the challenge of the phone. But we will also increase the phone lines.
Thank you so much, Minister. So I am Dr. Jubilee Brown Service. I'm the first Vice President for the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, not from the media. And I'm also a senior resident in the Department of Psychiatry at the university. So I'm very heartened to hear your focus on the psychosocial, because we do see the mounting psychological stress with our members. We represent 2,000 plus doctors. Many of them are in these disaster-stricken areas that you've mentioned. So we thank you. Right now, our president and other team members are on the ground in Black River trying to support our members there. So we thank you for that. And I also thank you for the very comprehensive brief. You answered some of my questions. So the only question I have today, Minister, or whoever, is there any plan to redeploy any doctors from the other areas to these areas? That's a question we've been getting from our members on the ground. And just to highlight that, I do know the ministry has been calling for volunteers. We have members that would love to volunteer, but because they're in their post, they can't move. And so we'd like some guidance on that. Thank you.
So I'm going to leave that to the clinical team, but I would think that logic would suggest that, yes, there'll be a need for some capacity support in those communities. We're going to have to do a couple of things, though. We have to ensure that the people who may be relocated, even if temporary, have somewhere to stay, for example, because one of the challenges we have, even with the persons coming in from abroad, the volunteers, the first thing they ask is, and even though they don't need luxury stay, it could be very modest, but they still need somewhere that is secure where they can stay. And I've asked the team to look at that. Isn't that what Dr. Dawkins, right? You want to comment on that?
Sure. So thank you very much for that. And yes, it is. We are, in fact, working on the plan as it relates to how we can bolster the human resources and leverage what we have. We're still working out some finer details, but as soon as that is refined, we'll let all persons know, including our local team here is offering. If you go ahead, sir. Sorry.
But let me say that we're going to need a lot of volunteers, and different persons will offer different capacity. What I'm hoping to do this week is to put a mechanism in place at the level of the parishes, 5 affected parishes.
Yes, sir.
So when we streamline and say we have 5 doctors who are primary care doctors who may want to work at a health center to relieve the doctor who lost their house and need to go and sort out their personal life, then we know that the parish team is able to say, okay, go down to Darliston or go up to wherever. And it's very coordinated. By then, the road will be opened up to access those communities. There's still work now going on to go into Westmoreland from St. Elizabeth. So I am hoping that this week we will sort that out, where each parish will have a point person, and then we can direct someone who may just want to go and give out 100 bags of stuff. That point person will say, boy, go into that community, and this is the person you talk to there, type of thing. That's the kind of coordination that we need, and we don't want to refuse anybody, but we just want to make sure that they're adding value to the process, as opposed to either being confused themselves or putting themselves in harm's way. And we need to manage that. But I appreciate the offer from the association, because I think you carry a kind of capacity that's going to be very important. So we need to have a conversation. Maybe we need to meet early week. So you just follow up in my office and let us have a discussion. Any other question?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Rochelle Williams from JIS. This is with respect to food. I understand that PAHO will be, of course, donating some supplies. Just wanted to get a feel of what that includes, particularly as it relates to food, because there's food scarcity in that part of the island.
Well, you want to speak to what you have, and then I'll speak to the food, because I'm sure yours doesn't include
Exactly.
food.
Thank you very much. Nice to have the question, Ms. Williams. The Pan American Health Organization, the World Health Organization, focuses its efforts specifically in the health sector. And while food and nutrition is, of course, an essential component of health, our focus is actually on emergency medicines, the emergency components of the health infrastructure, water and sanitation, the practical aspects of making sure that a health center can come back up to be able to serve the public, whether it's actually tarpaulins or these types of things that are the practical things that help the health services come back up. The whole food support from the international community is largely coordinated through the World Food Program, and they have a whole system underway as well in the country unfolding.
Okay, so generally speaking, there are different agencies. Remember, we're joint up government, so they...
The future doesn't need bystanders. It needs self-starters with limitless ambition, eager to look at our challenges and step up. At UMass,
the primary ones responsible for coordination of food relief, and they are very active on the ground. I know Minister Charles and Mackenzie are now in Sablamar as we speak, doing some of that, and they have teams in St. Elizabeth and other places. So food provisions are handled slightly differently. Our cleanup tomorrow, and any welfare support we're giving is really to our staff, because of the challenges that they face. But the general approach to food provisions are done through local government and Ministry of Labor. What I will say, though, is that as the roads open up, and that is being done as a priority, both things like food, petrol, and so on will become more available in those communities. The big challenge has been the logistics of getting it there, because Jamaica isn't short of food. In the trade, it's really the distribution of the food. And clearly in those parishes, because of the disruption of the trade from damaged buildings as well as road movement, then there'll be a scarcity. But I do hope, based on the efforts of the government, that over the next couple of days into the new week, that access would allow that some relief in that area. It doesn't mean that people won't need help, because a lot of people have lost everything, and therefore the disposable income would be a challenge. So the government I think would be even in a better position to deliver because of access. Any other question?
I have another question, Minister. So we have been inundated at the JIS with requests for information about persons wanting to volunteer their medical services from overseas. Can you just indicate here what the process is?
Right. So the team there's a vetting team. Persons have expressed an interest. Some have come to me, others to other persons. I normally hand them over to a team. It's a small committee. Dr. Dawkins Wright is part of that team. There's a process involving people's credentials, so we appreciate support, but we want to make sure that persons are qualified to provide the level of support that they're offering. We will fast track that, and have been, So it involves sometimes the nursing council, medical council. But Dr. Dawkins Wright is able to move those quickly. So if you have to get a temporary permit of some kind. So once, if you get those inquiries, you pass them on, maybe to Dr. Dawkins Wright, and she will do some follow-up checks. And we have a team that's working on that. And then also, having gotten the credentials sorted out, we have to direct them in the right place. So as I said, I met with 2 groups yesterday, and there are other groups that are here that we're talking to also. Yes?
All right, Shanique Thomas here from JIS. I'm asking this question on behalf of the persons on the live. Now, the question is, for persons who are in the marooned areas, what provisions are being made to get food to them? The minister would have, Dana Morrison-Dixon would have mentioned earlier this week about airdropping food. Has that started as yet?
I cannot comment on that. I would have to find out. What I'll say, though, is that my own efforts in health, where persons are marooned in a community, we seek and receive the support from the JDF because of the airlift, and they would normally go in and help. And I know they're doing it in other areas. But I also know that the NWA, through Minister Morgan's leadership and oversight, is clearing the roadways to access the major towns. There's still some work to be done on the off-roads, and I suspect that's where most of the challenges are. But some of that is also happening. So I can't comment on the specifics, but I know that the JDF would be the kind of primary drivers of the search and rescue or support for those communities.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, what provisions are being made to ensure that the distribution which is happening isn't just happening for one community or just one set of persons?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, but this is a government with a lot of compassion and understanding and recognizes its role to serve all the people as a government. The Prime Minister is very clear, both privately in cabinet meetings as well as publicly, that this distribution effort, this supporting effort, is for every single Jamaican that needs it, not for any particular Jamaican. And certainly I will say in health, as a Minister of Health, I've never and we will never discriminate as it relates to lives. And saving lives and the health and wellness of individuals discriminate in favor of or against anyone. So the short answer to your question is that we're serving everyone. I don't ask anybody who they are, where they come from. When I see them turn up at the hospital, if they need help, they need help. And that's the approach that we will take right through this process and beyond.
Okay, last one. This person is asking if you have any updates in regards to Lacovia Primary and Junior High, which was being used as a shelter with a lot of elderly persons there who aren't well right now.
The shelters are manned through the Ministry of Local Government. I'm sure they have an update on that if persons are in the shelter. I have a few in my constituency. We didn't get much damage, some but not much. And to the extent that persons went to those shelters, the Ministry of Labour and Local Government would normally provide support in those. Health does too, based on request. If we weren't requested, then chances are we probably would not have been needed in those shelters.
And health does a check.
Huh?
Health visits to the shelters.
But we visit the shelters also to check on them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any final question? I have to go now, unfortunately, sorry. No. I want to thank all of you for coming. Thank you. Sorry about this very long-winded brief, but this is the first major brief that we're provided. I just want to reassure everyone that we understand the task at hand. We're collaborating with PAHO and others. The team is on the ground, and we're now focused on the solutions. So we're not mentioning any challenge without offering some solution. And that's, I think, where we need to be now. And I think we have seen enough to know exactly how we need to approach the solution. So God bless and keep safe. And I agree, to the extent that you can offer a helping hand, please do. there are Jamaicans who need it far more than you, no matter how challenging you think your circumstances are at this point. Thank you very much.